I am Ashok Khosla. You are watching the Environment and Business Update, The Green Show. Even today, many people think that business and environment are like oil and water. They just don't mix. And indeed, the free marketplace where businesses can flourish does work on the single-minded pursuit of profits. Caring for the environment, on which our health and lives depend, can only come from either restricting the freedoms of the market or from the deliberate efforts of business people themselves. On The Green Show, we believe that market forces and businesses are not only a part of the problem, but must also become a part of the solution. Our job is to try and show you how.
Today, The Green Show brings you a story on the Green Line project in Delhi. We peep into the eco-friendly moves made by the glamorous hotel industry. We have a story on indoor plants, how they can contribute in your office environment. And finally, financial aspects of retrofitting in an industry.
How can businesses help improve the environment around us without having to set up another unit for this purpose? Well, they can pay someone else to do it for them. The Green Line enterprise in Delhi has pioneered one such approach. What began as a modest two-man team only a few years back is today a thriving business. It has its own horticulture department, nursery, 7 marketing persons, and over 50 field staff. In just 3 years, its turnover has grown 3 times. One look at the roadside greenery shows that industry is taking to the idea of greening Delhi. But what did it take to get them involved?
Cities need a minimum of 20% tree cover to help absorb the air pollution that their citizens create. But few cities in India have this. The burning of biomass for cooking, the widening of streets, and the intensive takeover of green areas to provide housing to the ever-increasing population, all these contribute to massive tree cutting. Delhi has less than a 1% tree cover, so does Bombay. Madras and Calcutta have less than 5%. The result is that air is difficult to breathe and a sharp increase in lung problems. City administrations have allocated vast sums of money for greening. Delhi has a budget of rupees 16 crores and 8,000 government gardens. Each year, the government claims to have planted 50 lakh trees. In reality, less than 1,000 trees are planted and few of these survive. Less than 100 of Delhi's 12,000 parks have trees in them. It is time citizens of each city started planting trees for their own survival. One such company, Green Line, headed by Raminder Singh and started in 1992, has an innovative way of greening Delhi. It gets industrial houses to become sponsors for planting trees on the road dividers, parks and roundabouts. Each kilometer has 100 trees planted on it, and each attractive tree guard has the company's name on it.
A small hoarding will cost about 20,000 rupees a month at a prominent site. We charge 6,000 rupees. So 3 times, hoarding is 3 times more expensive. And you see, don't consider the money analysis because it's a commercial thing, a hoarding, vis-a-vis a social project. The benefits you get out of a social project are much more than what you get out of a hoarding or a commercial media. People who see these signs attached to a tree will think a lot more about the company, that they're concerned about the environment, about the surroundings, than if they just see one ugly hoarding by Big Joe's or by one of these, clowns.
40 industrial houses such as JCT, Hero Honda, Ranbaxy, ABB, Philips, Larsen & Toubro, Modi, Oriental Insurance, Citibank and the Bank of America are taking part in the regreening of the city. Green Line has also undertaken the beautification of Delhi and Bombay airports and is now looking for sponsors for beautifying Vrindavan, which is part of the World Wildlife Fund India Forest Revival project.
And I'm told that it's mushrooming all over. Somebody's doing it in Faridabad, Noida it's being done, Lucknow somebody started. But in the other cities, unfortunately, a lot of these projects are being handled by the civic bodies. They are approaching companies and telling them, why don't you take the stretch and we'll, you pay us the money and we'll do the plantation and put up your names. Now there's always this disbelief when a civic body goes to a company and says that we'll do it for you, because they know once the money is given, there's no accountability. If the plants don't survive, the companies can't go back to the civic body and say, give our money back. But they can do that with us.
Today, the only new trees that are seen in Delhi are the ones planted by industry through Green Line. The company is doing very well, showing that eco-friendly ventures can be profitable and public service oriented.
Any hotel can claim to be environment friendly simply because it has good indoor plants, gardens, and landscapes. But is this enough? To become really green, what matters most is the minimization and recycling of wastes, reducing energy consumption, and adopting clean technologies. And by doing so, to bring in more guests. Here is the story of a hotel that is trying to be both ego-friendly and eco-friendly.
How does a hotel beat its competitors? By adding a little more masala to its food, using fancy towels and bed sheets, making the receptionist stretch his or her smile by a few more inches? No, these strategies are really old-fashioned. In today's age, the name of the game is image creation. And what could be better than getting eco-friendly?
In fact, what we are finding that I think the business traveler is getting to be more and more an intelligent traveler and is also looking for a hotel to stay in which is environment friendly. And having traveled widely, they support the cause of environment.
How does a hotel become green? The rules are simple: by reducing, recycling, and reusing. The Maurya Sheraton of the Welcome Group, with 440 rooms, has an energy consumption to the tune of 460 lakh rupees per year, and water consumption exceeds 3,65,000 kiloliters per year, enough to meet the requirements of a small township comfortably. Energy efficient measures, such as the installation of infrared sensors in the guest rooms, have resulted in a saving of rupees 8 lakh a year. These heat and motion detectors sense the presence and absence of the person in the room and accordingly switch the power supply on. Similarly, energy-efficient compact fluorescent lamps are replacing the conventional bulbs, promising an energy saving of over 75%. At the famous Bukhara restaurant of the hotel, a special insulating material called Hysil prevents the heat radiating from the tandoor into the air-conditioned environment, thus saving energy by reducing the load on the air conditioning and lowering the fuel consumption in the tandoor. Behind the glitter, computerized controls modulate the temperature of the given environment. Intelligent meters record the data on electricity consumption online. They prove to be useful tools for conservation and analysis of energy utilized at the hotel. All these conservation measures may seem negligible compared to the massive energy consumed here, but these do have an impact. Within the last few years, the Mauryas have been able to curtail their energy budget to around 6% of the total budget. 20% of the water at Mauryas is recycled. The effluent treatment plant recycles about 200,000 litres of effluents, both from the laundry and the kitchen. The treated water is used for horticulture points, garden fountains, and cooling towers. The innovative Auto Flush has infrared detectors which sense the presence of a person and allow automatic flushing in the public area toilets. This stops the continuous flow of water. Here, apart from saving water and power, the hotel saves rupees 5,400 per flush per year. Using ultrasonic technology, the hygiene kiosk is a safe and unique method of cleaning in the kitchen and the washrooms. Water molecules vibrate at 40 cycles per second and penetrate to remove microscopic dirt particles embedded in the pores and hands. The waste cooking oil in the kitchen is recycled for the manufacture of soap, which is used in the laundry. Paperless transmission is encouraged. Electronic mail and local area networking is used, doing away with conventional logbooks and paper communication. Recycled paper is preferred for gifts, stationery, and carry bags. Pampering the ego of its clientele is the main business of any hotel. It is no different here. So, Moriar's welcomes just about any eco-friendly move with caution, as long as it does not compromise the guest experience.
Most places we visit, hotels, airports, shops, parlors, and corporate offices seem to be turning green. Everywhere you see plants, plants in vases, plants in pots, plants in flower beds. Should we then conclude that environmental concerns have become a priority issue for our entrepreneurs? No, because most of these plants are made of plastic. In fact, plastic plants have become big business. This is unfortunate because this means that we do not get any of the benefits of indoor plants other than the color and decor. But remember, a plastic beauty is not going to be a joy forever. So we suggest that you go for the real thing.
Do you feel sick or giddy? Do you have a persistent headache? Does the office smell stale? Does opening the window make no difference? You are being chemically poisoned by the things you use. In the last 25 years, the number of products in your office which emit chemicals has increased. Plywood, board, polishes, cleaners, plastics, artificial fibers, insecticides, and other daily use articles all contribute to the atmosphere. Don't you feel better when you enter an office which is full of plants? It's because certain plants actually remove toxic chemicals from the air. Formaldehyde, benzene, and trichloroethylene are the main culprits. Benzene is derived from petroleum hydrocarbons. It is found in tobacco and other types of smoke, synthetic fibers, all plastics starting from soap dishes, synthetic inks, rubbers, even highlighters made of fluorescent colors. Termed environmental contaminant, it is actually toxic and a chronic poison and a carcinogen. It irritates the eyes and skin, causes headaches, drowsiness, nervousness, fatigue, and psychological disturbances. It causes a range of health problems from anemia to leukemia. Formaldehyde is also known as methanol. Does new furniture give you a headache? That's because this chemical is found in particle board, chipboard, resins, foam-insulated plywood, and carpeting. Formaldehyde irritates the mucous membranes of the eyes, nose, throat, and upper respiratory tract. Trichloroethylene is considered a potent liver carcinogen. It is found in adhesives, varnishes, dry-cleaned clothes, inks, lacquers, and paints. Plants active in neutralizing these chemicals are several spider plants hung up all over the office are particularly effective in removing chemical buildup. Besides making the air free of chemicals, office plants also absorb foul odors. In ill-ventilated offices that dot most of our urban centers, indoor plants by removing domestic emissions provide fresh, clean air by increasing the supply of oxygen in your microenvironment. During photosynthesis, plants release large amounts of water into the air. Consequently, plants, when placed together inside your office, increase the moisture content in the process of bringing down the room temperature. This means that you need to run your air conditioners and coolers for a shorter period of time. This is not only a financially favorable proposition, but more importantly, is environmentally friendly, as less energy used implies less coal burnt and a decrease in greenhouse gases. Some of the most effective air cleansing plants are
There are two ways to deal with the pollution mess: leave it for someone else to clean up, or prevent pollution at the source itself. Prevention costs less and is obviously the sensible choice. For old plants, this means installing new technologies on top of the existing ones, and this requires both money and foresight. The next story examines the problems associated with retrofitting.
pollution prevention adopts a front-end approach, attacking the source of waste by adjusting process technologies and controls, cleaning and handling practices, packaging, and even transport practices. But the Indian approach applies the end-of-the-pipe technology that merely removes or detoxifies waste without fundamentally affecting the industrial processes that produce them.
Well, ideally, the end of the pipe is an afterthought. If, to start with, if the technology is clean, that is the best solution. And in many cases, if the technology is clean, the consumption of resources is also less. Consumption of resources in terms of water, electricity, these are also minimized.
Definitely, it has to be conceived well in advance. So you have to install the modern facilities with the best pollution control measures in advance. There's no point in generating pollution and then treating. The process should be selected in such a way that the process results with minimum pollution levels or pollution hazards to the nature.
There are several reasons for companies not adopting cleaner technologies. Amongst them are financial constraints faced by the firms, lack of land to install pollution control systems, poor commitment at the corporate level, and lack of cost-effective technology. Pollution control devices are a non-productive investment, which would result in a price increase for the consumer, who would prefer a cheaper product even if it comes from a polluting plant. This acts as a great handicap to the industrialist.
Retrofitting existing manufacturing processes with that of cleaner technologies is a difficult issue, largely because of the opening of Indian economy and the competitiveness thereof. But Indian industry has realized that it's better to invest more in more resource efficient technologies now than to depend on retrofitting pollution control system at the end of the pipe, because that costs more.
Whereas in the case of end of the pipe, after having produced the wastes, the attempt is only to minimize it to the extent possible, or reuse it, or give it to some other industry which can use it as a product. In fact, this is also one concept in the absence of clean technology to be adopted by all the industries. If the industry makes sure that my waste, in the first place, I'll try to reduce it to the extent possible, recycle it, and also make it usable by others, so that there could be a group of compatible industries coming up. That is, waste of one becomes the raw material for the other.
The Finance Ministry or the government does not give any aid for retrofitting per se, but for the installation of a pollution control unit, 25% of the cost is given by each state and central government, 25% is to be arranged by the industry itself, and the rest, which is 25%, can be arranged from the Industrial Development Bank of India, IDBI, as a soft loan. This can, however, hardly be termed as a soft loan, as the interest rate is just about 2 to 5% less than a normal loan.
The problem is like this, that when people want to retrofit pollution control equipments and when they want to borrow the money from financial institutions, the debt equity ratio, which is the norm to decide whether or not you would be the right candidate to lend the money, this comes in the way, right? However, as far as Government of India is concerned, for instance, there are incentives available. What is happening in our country in terms of financial motivation from the government is much less compared to what has been happening in developed nations. Just to give you an example, see, Germany spends almost about 35 billion Deutschmarks on environment protection today, right? Out of 35 billion, 18 billion is spent by the government. Almost half. This is not the situation in our country. And that is the reason why pollution control equipment industry got such a major fillip in Germany, which is bringing in much more money to them in terms of technology and hardware sales abroad.
Of course, there are a host of problems. Finance is one. Alongside, I think a kind of inertia also is responsible. Over the ages, they have been using and used to a particular type of technology. So unless and until there is a pressing demand for change over, naturally one would not like to have a switch over to newer technologies.
The government plans to implement a program to construct common wastewater treatment facilities to handle effluents from multiple industrial installations. This, if actually implemented, can solve the dilemma of small-scale industries, since it is a practical and cost-effective solution. Nevertheless, the government has not been able to make the installation of common effluent treatment plants a success story. Small-scale enterprises complain that the money for effluent treatment plants is not actually provided by the government.
ऐसी फैसिलिटीज कोई दे रखी हैं तो एसएसआई यूनिट वालों को इतना ज़्यादा अच्छी तरह से कोई नॉलेज में है नहीं, और हैं तो हमको तो कहीं दिखाई नहीं देती क्योंकि फैसिलिटी किसी ने अवेल की हो.
There are certain groups of industries in the small scale sectors which handle the hazardous substances. Now, up to a certain point one can install the pollution control systems and become viable. But if you go on making it smaller and smaller units, then it becomes difficult for that particular unit to go in for an effective pollution control systems.
The government has given several incentives to SSEs under the Income Tax Act 1961. For example, the depreciation on plant and machinery is allowed at the rate of 15% of its cost. On devices for minimizing environmental pollution, the depreciation is 30%. Under the new system introduced in 1988-89, both the plant and machinery using anti-pollution devices have been categorized together with a depreciation rate of 50%.
सुविधाएं नहीं मिल रही हैं तो डेप्रिसिएशन कहाँ से मिलेगा? सुविधाएं ही नहीं मिल रही हैं. एक्चुअल में जहाँ रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैं वहाँ पे बल्कि जो गवर्नमेंट के एम्प्लॉयज़ हैं, जो ऑफिसर्स हैं, उनको जा के जो है सुविधाएं अवेल करने के लिए उनको कोशिश करनी चाहिए कि भाई आपको जब ये सुविधाएं मिल रही हैं तो आप ले क्यों नहीं रहे हैं. और यहाँ ये चक्कर है कि हम लोग जाके ले जाते हैं डिपार्टमेंट में तो अभी भी फॉर्मेलिटीज इतनी ज़्यादा हैं कि कोई उसको अवेल करना नहीं चाहता.
A rupees 1,000 crore project to combat industrial pollution in the country has been sanctioned by the World Bank. The project, known as World Bank Pollution Control Project, will provide loans to industries for installing pollution control facilities, including common effluent treatment plants and industrial water recycling treatment plants. There is also a scheme for recycling municipal water for industrial use.
If it is an old plant, you may have to provide an expenditure to the tune of nearly 10 to 12% additional investment. But in a modern plant, you may not require, or it can be insignificantly small. It depends on the extent of facilities already in existence and the addition that is required to make the pollutions acceptable levels.
For large and medium industries, there is no special facility available. However, there are specific programs launched by international aid organizations, ADB, World Bank, USAID, NORAD, where if you install end-of-the-pipe pollution control systems, you get the money that you need, provided you buy the technology or equipment from the country that fund wants.
The private sector alleges that the government is not really serious about environment protection, as there is very little, if any, help being given to industries in the form of subsidies or loans, and most of what exists is only on paper.
We need an institutional setup in the country which can guide industry that, look, you want to produce these cups and saucers, these are A, B, C, D, E, F, 6 technologies, and they are being ranked in terms of degree of cleanliness.
Eco-consciousness is rapidly catching up with quality consciousness as the vital precondition for success in business. Smart companies have already woken up to this fact. For others, it will take some time before they realize the massive environmental and social costs we will have to pay if they don't act fast. We at The Green Show urge the business community not to lie low and join us in this quest for alternatives which coexist with nature.